So why Cuba? It's a question I've been asked a lot since I began this series of paintings called The Lingering Revolution. Was it Cuba's history, its culture, the landscape? The fact is I didn't know a whole lot about the country. Cuba is 90 miles from the coast of Florida. It's kind of frozen in time since the 1950s. It's communist. And for most Americans, still, it's off limits. So why go to Cuba? I guess the answer to that question is it felt like a dare. I imagine Hemingway had a very different impression of Cuba in the 1940s. It was a peaceful, tropical hideaway where he could rigorously pursue sport fishing, drinking, relaxation. Certainly for tourists, that same nostalgic Cuba exists today. But move further away from Havana's touristy center, and you'll start to hear the pounding rattle of post-war automobile engines, blaring beat music coming from every balcony, roosters crowing, a frenzy of human voices. That's when you start to experience modern Cuba. But journey further into the countryside and you'll go further back in time. That's when you start to experience this quieter vibe of Cuba. That's when things start to really calm down. Communism in Cuba still extorts this kind of benign acceptance. But an honest story of Cubans is one of resilience, ingenuity, and creativity despite their political realities. Each painting I do is carefully arranged, carefully composed like a still life. They're not in-the-moment snapshots of life. They're not paintings of photographs. I use photographs for reference. I want to create visual narratives that celebrate color and texture, anatomy, symbolism, emotion. In my work, there's rhythm, there's repetition. The same way that poetry emphasizes each word and each word plays a part. Every aspect of my paintings have to work together to communicate with the audience. The background textures vibrate and compete with the figure like a complex Cuban rhythm. Watercolor is it's a really good medium for capturing very subtle textural nuances for things like skin or wood, even stone and steel. There's this physical reaction that takes place when these fine particles of pigment suspended in water get absorbed down into the paper fibers. It's organic, it's random. It allows very realistic textures to evolve and take shape. By working in a realistic style, I want to give the viewer a secure footing so that they can consider this existential nature of the human-environment relationship. This series of paintings explores the interlocking fibers that weave Cubans into their social and physical surroundings. The effect that one has on the other both exist because both occur. Communism, to me, is like waves in an ocean. Some people it lifts and carries, while others it smashes onto the shore. Since Castro's sweeping revolution began in 1953, Cuba has struggled economically. Many of their closest allies and training partners have fallen away from the faith. Communist ideology for most Cubans is kind of like this persistent pit in their stomach. It's a dull malady that seems bent on censoring any determination they have to thrive. I've learned, though, never underestimate the determination of any Cuban. spilling out onto the cobbled pavement. Life in Cuba is exuberant, harsh, exotic, visceral. It's a daring place to explore. But the faces you encounter there, they'll remind you of someone you've met before. They're the expressions and gestures of family, friends, neighbors. Proud ethnic cultures all blending together like lime and rum and ice in one of Ernest Hemingway's exalted daiquiris. It's such a remarkable land, shrouded by a lingering revolution that continues to haggle for hearts.